Good morning, LAPCS scholars. Mr. Rally here. I hope everybody had a good Easter weekend, nice long weekend, and you're feeling refreshed and ready to go. So today we are going to start talking about the progressive reform era, and this came around the same time as it started around the same time as imperialism and happened during the right after the Gilded Age. So some of these concepts and events overlap. So I just tried to sort of put them together in a way that made sense. So don't forget to do your exit ticket at the end of this. Make sure you are taking notes and sending them to me. So the progressive era, part one. You'll get part two tomorrow. The Gilded Age and Progressive Movement. The Gilded Age was about 1877 to 1890. It was a period of rapid industrialization, economic growth, immigration, and urbanization. Remember, this is like the great age of all these massive corporations. Progressive Movement from 1890 to 1920 was there to solve the social problems of immigration, urbanization, and industrialization. So the progressive movement was trying to counter some of the problems that were associated with the Gilded Age. Problems of the Gilded Age. Agricultural expansion was accomplished through wars against the Native Americans, leading to new federal Indian policies, most of which were unfair to the natives. Industrial development brought great fortunes to a few. Remember, we talked about the robber barons and that sort of thing, and raised the standard of living for millions of Americans, but also brought about the rise of national labor unions and clashes between industry and labor. So between the people who employed and their employees. Social problems in rural and urban settings have given rise to third-party movements in the beginning of the progressive era movement. So basically, the progressive era movement was a reaction, a social reaction to the issues and problems of the Gilded Age. Causes of the progressive movement. Just take a good look at this picture. You know, when you have low wages and high rent, it's really difficult to live. Excesses of the Gilded Age. Income disparity. Rich people are really rich. Poor people are really, really poor. Robber barons. They were businessmen who abused workers to benefit themselves, such as Rockefeller or Carnegie. And there was corruption, abuse of power. Basically, these were people who felt like almost like they owned their employees in a sense, where they could just squeeze them, pay them little because they're like, well, they need a job, so I can pay them whatever I want to pay them. Working conditions, dangerous working conditions. There was child labor, long hours, low wages, no job security or benefits. Company towns took advantage of families, keeping them as wage slaves. So basically, a company town is a place that's built up around an industry. It has homes and apartments and things like that that are owned by the company, but the employees and their families lived there. So that was part of the whole package. And when you think about it, yeah, well, maybe it sounds great that, you know, a company that you work for is kind enough to give you a roof over your head too. But see, the places that they were living were not good. I mean, it was just the bare minimum if they were lucky. Inequality of employment of women. Progressive presidents. Theodore Roosevelt's Square Deal emphasized social reform and attacked unfair business practices. Hold on a second. Let's remember who Teddy Roosevelt. That's Teddy Roosevelt. I don't want to cover up his face there. Teddy Roosevelt was a war hero. He was one of the Rough Riders. He was a leader of the Rough Riders during the Spanish-American War, and he became the president. So Theodore Roosevelt's Square Deal emphasized social reform and attacked unfair business practices. I'm a very big fan of Theodore Roosevelt. He was a very important president And he did a lot of good for regular people, the working class people. And he also was very environmentally conscious. Like the national and state parks that we have now in the United States happened because of Teddy Roosevelt. Anyway, Howard Taft was, William Howard Taft was actually seen as a progressive failure. His policies he wasn't a strong enough personality. So he couldn't get anything done. He had good ideas, but he was not able to get them done. Unlike Roosevelt, who was, not only did he have good ideas, but he was also a very strong personality. And a president needs to have a strong personality. Woodrow Wilson's New Freedom emphasized reform for banking, taxes, and business. We will talk about Woodrow Wilson a lot more coming up. He's more of a footnote in this little bit of a time period, but it's important to know who he is because we are actually going to be talking about him next week in greater detail. So what were the goals of the progressive movement? They wanted the government to be controlled by the people. Remember, those Republican values, government by the people, for the people, guaranteed economic opportunities through government regulation and elimination of social injustices. Now, look at this. This could be something that is right in our news right now, right? Eliminating social injustice, economic opportunity through government regulation. It's even though things have changed over the last few decades, we're still working on trying to fix a lot of the same problems that keep coming up. It's interesting to me. All right. So what were some of the accomplishments of the progressive era? The progressive accomplishments in local governments. So new government positions to meet the needs of increasing urbanization. The city commissioner and council manager attempted to fight corruption and respond to the people's needs. So basically there needed to be more, in some cases, more government officials put into place to handle all of the new services that need to be created to handle higher population in urban areas. In this progressive accomplishments in state governance referendum, all citizens of the state get a vote on a piece of legislation. That is true to this day. This is a very important thing. So when you have a ballot, sometimes there's a piece of legislation, which is a law that people vote on. So it's not just our lawmakers. We the people can do that. We do that. It doesn't happen a lot, but it's something that happens every so often, and it's an important thing. State initiative, state citizens get to propose legislation to the state, which is kind of neat, recall, state citizens can get to remove an elected official before his term is expired. It's similar to an impeachment, except this is done by the people. What are all three of these increasing? Think about what Andrew Jackson did. We'll go back to that. And if you're not sure, go back. Pretty awesome. Okay. Progressive accomplishments in elections, primary elections. People of the political party get to decide who their candidate is in the election. So you know how we'll have two Democratic candidates and two Republican candidates, say, and the Democrats vote for the person they want to run for them to represent them, and the Republicans do the same thing, and then you have one person going against one person. 17th Amendment, U.S. senators are elected. Previously, they were chosen by state legislatures. So now, this is really important because your senators, the state senators represent your state, your people, and so you want to make sure that you are voting. And so that was a really important thing to be able to vote for your own senators, for your own representation in Washington. Secret ballots, voters' choices were anonymous. Before that, it wasn't like that. And it is important to keep, in order to make it so that it's more equal, you need to be able to kind of keep that a secret, All right, progressive accomplishments in child labor. Now, look at these tenements where these people were living. There was a child here. There was a lot of children that were working. Muckrakers, they literally literally known as poop rakers, expose problems in society like child labor by writing news articles and publishing photographs like this. Help push labor laws in many states, child labor laws in many states, which banned the use of children as workers. Some children work from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. every day, 6 days a week. They got to have Sunday off so they can go to Sunday school. So that's it for the part one. Okay, and then part two you'll get tomorrow. So please make sure you're taking notes and you're sending them to me, and please also make sure that you complete your exit ticket. Okay. So I guess that's about it for part one of the progressive era.